All right, crypto market update. Happy Thursday. Looking at the overall price of Bitcoin, we could see that it's kind of starting to creep its way up. Bit of a possible bounce play. Just kind of playing the waiting game. But we have this candle's showing strength. We're coming up into some resistance in through here. Just recently popped a slightly new high. And let's see, if I look over on, just gonna quickly pull up this. So looking at the 1 week stochastic RSI, possibility that it might be crossing under at the oversold level. We've looked at the RSI yesterday, and it's the lowest I think it's ever been in the history of Bitcoin. So that's certainly interesting, certainly worthwhile paying attention. So mixed bag as far as alts are concerned. Some have taken off a little bit more than others. Some are kind of a little bit sluggish right now. Looking at some that took up. Oh yeah, interesting news today. So apparently Daniel Larimer of EOS, the founder of EOS, is considering another project. Surprise, surprise. If there's a futures market where I could bet on that, I'd make a lot of money. But so this will, I mean, EOS is his third project, so now he's considering a fourth. And so this is, I mean, this amongst many reasons are why I'll trade with EOS, but I personally can't really, I don't want to invest in it as a longer term investment. That's just my personal thoughts. I've been through the whole BitShare stuff, so on and so forth. You can kind of see this like very lopsided head and shoulders here. Looking at the USD price, in my opinion, it looks like it I mean, no guarantees, but it looks like it wants to do a full retrace. So we'll see, right? Just to kind of throw back to BitShares. BitShares used to be all the hype. I wonder which one has more market data than Poloniex. BitShares used to be all the rage back in the day. And this was its opening. Nice strong opening, lots of hype. And then it just kind of slowly bled away over the course of several years, and then had a bit of a comeback with the bubble, so on and so forth. So probably right here's where it's been the most sluggish, few years there. Just going to take a peek at Steam just to see how that one's doing. That one was also all the rage when it came out. So Steam started off really, really high. I remember that, and it just kept bleeding out, selling, likely due to inflation, maybe early whales just continuously dumping, cashing out. Then it had a little bit of a bounce with altcoins, and now it's kind of looks like it's back at like the lower end of possible accumulation range. Let's just look at the volume. So I'm just so I wouldn't be surprised to see EOS follow a similar trajectory. It's got a ton of volume and such, but I'm just not a big fan of having like 21 block validators that you vote for, right? That can like censor transactions and stuff. That doesn't sound very decentralized to me. So Steam volume, it's okay, so. Anyways, there's some thoughts on that. As far as gainers, so let's see, anything. So metal's been popping off, and then what else is of interest? Siren Labs had another small push. I was looking at that. It's consistently pretty decent volume. This kind of looks like a bit of a cup and handle to me, right? You got this drawdown, this sideways accumulation that's curving up, retesting resistance point, and then obviously selling as Bitcoin dumped. Now it's bouncing again. Oh, they're launching their phone today? Ah, okay. Last day to buy the phone pre-order. Okay, so I guess people, and they're selling it in SRN. No? Okay, it's just hot air. People are like, ooh, they have a new phone. So bullish. Let's pump SRN. That's crypto. Just the pre-order needs 50 SRN. Okay, gotcha. Pre-order needs 50 SRN. Okay, so that's creating a bit of a supply and demand dynamic. So we'll see if that sticks or if there'll be kind of a sell in the news or whatnot. So it's interesting because you had a lot of random things that just kind of popped up, right? And actually looking at Tezos, it looked like Tezos had some more capitulation. Someone probably market dumped a bunch of Tezos here. Actually, I want to jump into accumulation, my thoughts on accumulation, how I treat accumulation, and what my overall general accumulation strategy is, and what that means and how that differs from other types of trade setups, right? So just to speak to that, so for me, accumulation, I mean, if you look at the actual word, the actual definition of accumulation is you're basically stockpiling something, right? You're stocking up, you're loading up on something. Now the thing is, in my opinion, or in general, accumulation tends to happen when the markets are really slow and choppy and sideways and kind of grindy, so on and so forth, right? We've seen it a lot in altcoins time and time again. We've seen it in Bitcoins, so on and so forth. It can sometimes be difficult though to time or pick the bottom in accumulation. Sometimes in accumulation things can drop lower. The way I personally treat accumulation is for example, I believe that it's a longer term play when I'm accumulating something. To me, there's like two different types of strategies. There's like the shotgun approach, which is just like not actually accumulating a bunch of coins, but maybe just buying a few coins here and there that look like they're in accumulation range, maybe sprinkling it out like a shotgun approach. And then if you get some coins popping off, you increase your chances of seeing some pay dirt when a lot of the correlated altcoin markets go flat, right? But for me, actual accumulation is a longer term investment. I'm thinking cycle to cycle. So I'm thinking several years out. And generally, when I accumulate something, even if I'm accumulating a sizable position, I don't use stops when I accumulate stuff. What I do is I just average down and I buy more at the lows because I'm accumulating, right? I'm building up a war chest. That said, when I do accumulate stuff, I act as if the money is already gone. I put it out of my mind. I don't fuss and fret over it. So that's another thing psychologically, right? If I accumulate something for the long-term pile, then obviously position sizing is key, right? And obviously keeping some ammo for lower prices, for averages, and so on and so forth. But one thing that I should point out is that an accumulation play, in my opinion, should not necessarily be considered an immediate trade event. It's not necessarily something that will necessarily produce immediate pay dirt, nor is it something that's easy for a lot of traders, right? For me, when I say long term, I'm looking a few years out, right? Bitcoin, we've got a couple halvings coming up in 2020. We've got the Bitcoin halving coming up in 2020. We've got the Zcash halving coming up in 2020. They happen to time their halvings on the same year, so that's going to be an interesting dynamic Yeah, Litecoin's got a halving coming up too. I think a little bit, maybe a bit sooner. So generally speaking, historically, unless we get a double bubble, a double bubble would be like similar to like 2013 type of thing. So I'll just 2013. So that would be the case for like a fast recovery, and a slow recovery would be more of like a 2014 recovery. But like you could see like down here, right? This was like chopping around, and then it dropped and kind of capitulated, and then it just rose up and broke out and did its thing again, right? Now the interesting thing with, so obviously it's no secret, no surprise that I picked 2 coins mostly to accumulate, Zcash and Tezos. You all know my reasons. I wrote some reports on it. Obviously the reports are looking at longer term fundamentals. Interesting thing with Zcash is in its next halving, the founder rewards are gone. So there's no longer 20% going to the founders. The problem with things like founder rewards and stuff like that is it actually does create, it creates selling pressure, right? And some people say, well, what if they just hodl, right? What if they just hodl? What if they don't sell? Well, technically, every time they get some rewards, it's a taxable event. So they have to pay tax on it. So if they don't sell some, then they have to pay out of their own pocket for those coins, right? So that does create selling pressure on top of obviously miners and so on and so forth. Now, for someone who's keen about accumulating it, obviously selling pressure and new lows is not a bad thing, right? Even if that, for me, even if that means temporary drawdowns and stuff, for the most part, I'm happy to buy it as low as I possibly can, right? That's just me. You need a strong stomach to accumulate like that, to invest like that. So that's a very different strategy than, let's say, like I would say like a more of a shotgun strategy. Like let's say I bought some alts, and then some alts all of a sudden went boom. That's sitting on the exchanges. I'd probably sell and take some profit, blah 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 blah, with some of those mid caps, right? That's a little bit different. For me, like I do have some Zcash specifically for trading, but most of it is actually now sitting in cold storage. And I topped up, like I said yesterday, I topped up one of my largest purchases of Zcash recently at these lows, just to get my cost basis down and so on and so forth. Halving is basically when the block rewards get cut in half. So, like when Bitcoin first came out, the rewards were 50 Bitcoin a block, and then every 4 years it got cut down to 25, and then 12.5, and then in 2020 that's going to get cut down again. And one of the reasons why halvings tend to be, people say, oh, it's all priced in, blah blah. Well, no, it's not priced in, right? I don't even know what that means, right? Priced in, like what does that mean? Like the markets can't move up, it's flat, like to me, priced in or efficient market hypothesis doesn't make any sense to me, but I've already gone on a rant about that. So 2016 was the halving, right, for Bitcoin. I think it was the summer or something like that. And so we were trending up, bullish, leading up towards it. But why that tends to be bullish is because it actually reduces the rate of inflation. So that's less coins that miners can dump on the market, right? And they need to sell because they have real operational expenses. And even if they pay those operational expenses in Bitcoin, the receiving end, electricity company, whoever, manufacturers, whatever, warehousing, so on and so forth. I mean, someone's got to cash out. At some point, someone's got to cash out, unless suddenly, even for taxes, you got to pay taxes, you got to cash out. Which is actually why it's fairly big news that the state of Ohio is accepting Bitcoin for tax, because if all of a sudden you can start paying your taxes, I mean, when you think about it, the one thing that's like keeping us in the fiat game is, aside from the stability, relative stability of fiat for the most part compared to volatile assets like Bitcoin or whatnot, it is taxes, right? Like I can earn passive income in crypto, like I can get passive income in Bitcoin or Tezos or whatever, but I have to pay taxes and therefore I have to sell crypto in order to pay taxes, right? Whereas if I could pay it directly, maybe the government would convert it immediately, so on and so forth. But anyways, so that's generally why the halving is tends to be bullish. So my mind right now, like I'm already living in my mind, I'm already living 3 years in the future. Obviously there's no guarantees in the market and so on and so forth, and anything can still happen, but I'm living in the next cycle right now with these low prices. This is really what I'm thinking about. Josh saying, so if you're accumulating, don't look at the hourly price changes and panic. Yeah, it's a long game, right? It's a long game. And like I've showed before, accumulation isn't, I've showed this before, but accumulation isn't easy. Yeah, look at the 1 minute chart when I accumulate. 30-second chart. 10-second chart. I've got a time target of 10 minutes. Like I showed this before. I keep showing this example, but like people always look back. They always look back and say, "Oh, wow, so nice. I wish I could have bought Ethereum at $2, at $1, at whatever, $3, at any price that wasn't $1,500, right? $1,400." But like I showed you before, like is that easy? Is that easy to do that, right? When something's new and kind of a liquid and volatile and it's still growing, is that easy? I mean, you've got, the most optimal time to buy Ethereum was in 2015, unless you're buying the ICO, of course. And it's 163 days of crap, right? We even had, look at this capitulation here. I bet you a lot of people, well, this looked like more of a flash crash, but on the bleeding edge, I bet you this seemed pretty scary to some folks. Right? And then if you measure, like I showed this example just from, it doesn't look like much. You look in hindsight, like $2 down to here, like on the big scale, this looks like absolutely nothing. Like people would probably sell a kidney to buy at those prices. But when you actually look at it on the minutia, it's pretty volatile, and just from this point to this point, it's nuts when you think about it on this scale. This is an 81% drop from high to low. It's pretty obviously, like, you don't want to try to buy things that just get listed on exchanges and dump. So even this little move here, like 50%, so on and so forth. Anyways. So just examples, and I could show you the same example on like pretty much any coin. Factum seems to be a real winner this week. See, like here's another example of an accumulation pattern, right? Holo, I'm not accumulating Holo. I bought it as an investment. So it's not really a trade per se. I just bought some really, really low at like 5 Satoshis. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty good order. I think I'm going to hold that for a while, right? I'm still in profit on that. I think I'm just going to hold that and see, wait for it to actually have a good market cycle. I don't even think Holos had a market cycle yet. So I want to, basically, for me, a market cycle is when it goes parabolic. If it pulls off a Dogecoin or something, then I'm going to sell, right? Then I'm going to sell it. Until then, I'm going to be patient. But here's an example, right? So over the past several months, we were talking about how altcoins looked like they were an accumulation. And recently we had a pretty violent shakeout with this dump. We had some capitulation there, right? But does that invalidate that altcoins are an accumulation? Does that invalidate the accumulation pattern just because some of them broke into new lows? Not necessarily. Obviously, we'll only know in hindsight 2020, right? But here's a prime example, right? Sell off, sell off, sell off, bear channel, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it goes flat, it's dead, it's boring. And then next thing you know, over the course of, maybe a week or so, for whatever reason, it decides it needs to go up 336%, just like that. In 3 weeks, pretty much, right? So this is when I start to see moves like this on certain markets. It's still that popcorn effect, right? So there's still stuff that's kind of popping off. There's stuff that dropped lower, but then full retrace back up and then wick down and so on and so forth. Let's see. See if anything else sticks out for me. KMD. This is, I think I have a bit of this. This is one of the things I bought before the drop. Now, here's an interesting thing. Like, let's say, so here you have a coin that was showing this accumulation range, the lower end of the spectrum, like right at support here, right? And then it capitulated with Bitcoin. And then over the course of, a day, it pretty much bounced back, retrace a bit from that, but it did spike up and bounce back into that zone. So here's an interesting thing. Let's say you buy something. Let's say you buy an altcoin down here. Say you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this altcoin. It looks like it's an accumulation. And there's a couple ways that you could obviously manage risk. Obviously, if support breaks, you could use a stop. But these markets aren't like super liquid, so stop you could lose like 25%, a hard loss. Another approach is, let's say you buy something down here and then it drops and you're like, it's crap, I don't necessarily want to be in that position anymore. You could just like set a limit order at your break-even point, and then if the market wicks up like this, you basically get out at least at a Bitcoin break-even. Obviously, there's still be a dollar drawdown or whatnot, but I did that not too long ago on DMT. It was like a small position that I bought. It looked interesting. It was just got listed on the exchange. Bought it a little too soon. Can't remember. I think I bought it like right here, somewhere around here. And then it bled out. It wasn't a huge position. And then it spiked up and I sold at a profit. And then it did a full retrace. And this is a good full retrace coin, actually. Probably not the best volume, but it's a small cap market. Actually, the volume is pretty good. 14.5, not bad. So it's only on one exchange though, or at least on Coinage. Maybe it's on some other ones. Yeah, it's on a few exchanges. So that's one graceful exit. Popped up, exit. Could have bought back in though. That would have been sweet. And so you just see this time and time again with altcoins. So my rule of thumb, for the most part, because altcoins love doing full retraces and all that kind of stuff, I just try to buy them as low as I can. For the most part. And that's not always easy, but just because they move so fast and they do full retraces. And how do you balance your trade capital long-term investment percentage-wise? So basically, the lower the price goes, the more I add to my longer-term bags as an investment. So siphoning off money from my trading account. So for, most of the year, I had a bunch of money in my trading account, most of it in fiat. With these new lows, I start to pull stuff off into longer term holds, try to get as much bang for my buck. And so I reduced the positions. And if I get lower prices on other stuff, then I'll probably do some more. Same with Bitcoin. If it gets low enough, then I'll probably add to my longer term Bitcoin bags. But one thing I also said is that below 5K is a point where I start to get interested in trading alts to get more Bitcoin again. Right, so the major theme of this year has been trading in fiat USD. I'll still pay attention to fiat, but it's something I post on Twitter too. That what I post on Twitter is that, like, when the price is high, because there's so much debate up at the highs. There's some people who are still kind of stubborn, saying like, "Oh no, only plebes trade in USD. Real traders trade on the Bitcoin pairs." And I just thought that was ridiculous because, to me, logically, when the price is high, trade in dollars, cash out in dollars. And when the price is low and you get back into wanting to accumulate Bitcoin again for next round, then one can trade those altcoins, altcoins for more Bitcoin. Oftentimes, altcoin flipping is essentially a means for people to accumulate. One of the fastest ways to accumulate Bitcoin isn't by trading Bitcoin, it's by trading altcoins and then cashing out your profits in Bitcoin. That's actually one of the fastest ways to accumulate Bitcoin. And, right here, there was basically, like, I'd hedged half my portfolio here into altcoins. Altcoins went nuts. Flipped that into fiat, then went all in on Bitcoin at 2K, and then Bitcoin started to tear its market dominance back. I got a nice Bcash airdrop, yada yada. So there was some heavy Bitcoin accumulation happening right here with alt season, right? So even though there's like, this is a Bitcoin accumulation pattern, before Bitcoin went on a tear, alt season was a really hot way to accumulate altcoins before it went nuts, right? So oftentimes before Bitcoin makes a huge move, if it makes a big reversal or whatnot, oftentimes alts will pop, and whales can use it as an opportunity to accumulate a war chest of Bitcoin, and then start a new cycle, and so on and so forth. We don't know how long all of this is going to take. We're still on the bleeding edge. This capitulation, nice little tweezer bottom here with some volume. We're still on the bleeding edge, but that's kind of the name of the game, right? And that's pretty much it. Now there's something else that I wanted to mention. Oh yes, I had retweeted something that someone had tweeted yesterday, showing that the majority, it looked at all the Ethereum ICO addresses, and basically 464,000 ETH were capitulated in November. So the lowest dollar value was capitulated but the highest amount of Ether. So I don't know if you remember a market report I did last year. I think it was last fall, maybe it was September, so I can't remember when it was. But it basically said that, my opinion, the ICO boom was inflating the price of Ethereum. It was creating buying demand. And then all of a sudden, I anticipated that all of that could unravel in a bear trend, and that all those ICOs would eventually start capitulating and adding selling pressure on Ethereum, right? Just like it got inflated, it got deflated. And so, now it's not going to be so easy for ICOs with all the new regulations and such. And in some ways, even though I like decentralization and a free market, and I kind of like the jungle of crypto, I kind of like the anything goes or whatever. But the ICO bubble really was out of hand last year. It really did go nuts. I mean, everybody and their grandmother is raising millions of dollars on garbage, right? And so obviously that drew some attention and needed to the brakes. There need to be some restrictions, and the brakes need to be tapped on that a bit, right? So we're kind of seeing a slowdown, but that really contributed to Ethereum ballooning up and making such rapid gains, right? Interesting thing as far as Tezos is concerned is they're also a platform that once they streamline their token creation process, their main focus isn't necessarily ICOs like Ethereum is, but there probably will be crowd funds and security tokens and stuff like that on Tezos, and then naturally Tezos would be the coin of choice to do that on that particular blockchain, and that can create a supply and demand dynamic and so on and so forth on the price with Tezos. So it's still very, very early. Just I'm being very, very patient with Tezos because it's very, very early. I mean, the network's only been live for like a couple of months, right? So it's super, super early. I mean, developers are still being trained, right now in it. And with that comes building, and with building comes crowdfunding, and with that comes media attention. Every single time someone launches a project, they're going to do a media package. There's going to be a Forbes article. There's going to be this article. There's going to be that, blah, blah, blah. It's going to create more media attention, put it on people's radars, on their maps, so on and so forth. And, and then a new cycle begins, right? And maybe it'll have its black swan events too. Maybe it'll have its crisis moments and so on and so forth. Maybe regulators, throw the hammer or whatever type of thing. But the thing is, it's a live decentralized network, right? So it's not vaporware. It's not just a white paper. It's not just a pipe dream. It's live. It's decentralized. You can't shut it down just like Bitcoin, right? So it's one of the benefits versus just some kind of like vaporware or some Mickey Mouse dApp or something, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it. I'm just being patient right now, playing the waiting game. Obviously for Bitcoin, lower time frame, it still looks kind of like some continuation here. So we got to break this resistance in through here, pop through this resistance. I think shorts are still relatively high, so there might be some fuel in the fire here if we can break upwards. Yeah, they're still rising. So still kind of shorts are still kind of rising at resistance levels. So I think that depending on where the majority of them were opened, if we end up pushing through that resistance, we could end up seeing a nice little short squeeze, perhaps maybe even popping up into the 5K area. And and if we do pop up into the 5K area, or like right here, whatnot, I think for anybody who needs to rebalance their bags or whatnot, if you didn't have stops or so on and so forth, then I think that's probably if we saw pop in some altcoins, That could be a good opportunity for some possible bag cleanup, so on and so forth, or maybe some consolidation into certain coins over others, and so on and so forth, right? Is there any technical indicator or measure of counterforce? It seems counterforce is a main hypothesis for bounce. Mostly the momentum indicators, right? Mostly stochastic RSI and the RSI. They measure momentum between buyers and sellers. So that's kind of why I like to look at it on the larger time frames, right? Like you get a lot of noise on the small, like there's a lot of noise in the smaller time frame, you know, unless you want to scalp or day trade or whatnot. But the 1 week, you know, it's kind of on this little chop here, the sideways chop of zigzagging. This is the most zigzagging I've ever seen the stochastic RSI ever do. I think the last time it zigzagged this much was over here. So the last time it came down this low, though, was on this bounce, and then this bounce, and then this bounce right here. So if it crosses under here, this showing that buyers perhaps are stepping in and momentum may be in favor of a bounce. Obviously, no guarantees. I'd like to see this weak candle. We've got till Sunday. I'd like to see this close strong. You know, I'd like to see it come up to at least the 5K area, right? If this green candle, unless this turns into like one of these little transition candles right here, this is possible. But then sometimes if it doesn't close strong, it could be one of these, which could just be a pause and then continuation, right? So one has to account for that, right? So that's why, you know, I think a good middle path, if we did pop up into this region, would maybe be to do some bag cleanup, but for anything that's kind of had those spikes or popped up on altcoins or whatnot, if one needs to readjust risk and so on and so forth. But so we'll see how this all plays out. But you know, basically, I just wanted to talk about you know, the accumulation play and how I do it and so on and so forth. Now, I've obviously put a lot of money into Tezos, and if it goes lower, I'm gonna buy more. I'm gonna continue accumulating it because that's, for me, that's what accumulation is. But we just got to stress, you know, any capital put into a longer term investment or accumulation play should not be capital that one needs immediately. It shouldn't be bill money or grocery money or anything like that, or anything that you immediately need. It requires a tremendous amount of patience and equanimity. And so, you know, it should be, to me, it's like I park the money, and it's like it's just gone until the markets pick up and I hit profit targets and the ecosystem builds, right? So it's just parking money in something new. It's obviously risky. Nothing's guaranteed. This is still crypto, new experimental tech, but it's, you know, markets that I know better than, you know, stocks or other things. So I'm kind of just sticking with what I know as far as accumulating stuff. And as far as stocks are concerned, my stock trading accounts are in cash. Like I said, a month or so ago, I'd sold everything into cash. I was looking at weed stocks and stuff, but I don't feel they've hit support yet. So I'm kind of maybe waiting for like a double bottom, an ACB or something like that. And I just want some dry powder. If we do have a stock market recession in 2019 or 2020, I think we do. I think we will, because of the unsustainable debt bubble that we're in right now. You know, basically companies have been expanding aggressively on cheap debt, and most of them aren't even profitable. Amazon, which hit $1 trillion market cap, was expanding on cheap debt too, and its profit margins are really, really small. There's a whole bunch of other you know, stocks that are in like similar situations. So yeah, I saw the Deutsche Bank news that the money laundering. I'm glad I cut out of my position on the break of support, But if it drops hard, like if this thing like suddenly hit like a couple dollars or whatever, I'd probably have to buy some again. You know, let's see if it responded to this news here. Yeah, it looks like it's slowly starting to break down. So like I had bought like right here, and then it bounced, and then support snapped, and I was like, you know what, I'm out. I'm not gonna, like, I don't mind if I need to hodl or go through some drawdowns on crypto because I like crypto, especially on projects that I like. But I'm not going to be a Deutsche Bank community member, right? I'm not going to be a Deutsche Bank bag holder. But if it capitulated and shot all the way down to like a couple bucks or whatever, I would definitely probably take a stab at that because that's what I do. I catch knives and I cut myself. So someone's saying that this is bouncing a little bit. All right, folks, we'll end it there, and good luck. See you all in the trenches. Anything happens, let's see what the next day or so brings. Weekend, if anything happens, I will share my thoughts in the trading room. Take care, folks. Cheers.